How many of you happen to find the TED Talks driving in? Boy, talk about a segue. It was an hour of talks on kindness. I don't know how you find those again, but I hope we can.
Podcast.
On podcast. Okay, so if you search it on the internet, TED Talks, kindness, PBS, is that right? NPR, thank you. That PBS is television. Thanks. NPR and today's date. It was organized by Daniel Goleman, whose book we're studying for the next 3 months. I'd suggest you get it. It's called A Force for Good. A Force for Good. And what he's writing about is the Dalai Lama's vision as a world spiritual leader, that we all, as humans, as one, as created beings, as expressions of love, that we all learn in this period of time in response to what's going on around us, what's going on in the world, what makes us angry, what makes us sad. In response to that, that we learn as humanity to practice universal compassion or kindness. And as a spiritual community, we are committing to do that, to work on that over the next 2 or 3 months, and to come up with an action plan going forward in collaboration, not just in our own little cocoon, but in collaboration with the towns and cities around us, the non-government organizations that are also working toward that same goal, so that we become part of the force. And we're not just, off and up babbling in our own little corner. So that's the vision that we're introducing with this series of talks, and with this focus on a force for good. Is the vision that after we have studied together, talked together, experienced together, that we can really make progress toward being able ourselves to be universally compassionate. What does that mean? Well, what came to mind was my memory of 9/11, 15 years ago. On that day, and for months afterwards, many people, were in a space of universal kindness. Ellen and I were living in Berkeley, California. We also had an apartment in New York, in the East Village. Our neighbors knew that. We were being bi-coastal. Real fast. But we got a phone call at 6:30 a.m. that day from a friend saying, you have to turn on the television. And we did. And of course we were horrified. And then we started learning that friends who lived in that area were missing. We had no way of tracking them down. It was months later when we were able to finally reconnect. And I don't know why. Why do you do things like this? We went out of our house, out onto the sidewalk, and were aware that our neighbors were running toward us. And they hugged us. And they sat down on our front steps with us and held our hands and prayed aloud with us. And the neighborhood we lived in was a struggling, multi-ethnic, really interesting neighborhood. You were people with all languages, all colors, all faiths gathered around us, praying with us, holding us. That's universal kindness. That's awareness of how someone else is feeling. Another word for it that you will hear is compassion, with feeling. Literally, is what the two Latin pieces mean. Feeling with is the definition of kindness. Not sympathy, not, oh, you poor thing, but feeling with, feeling in us what the other person is feeling. And science has demonstrated over and over again that all sentient beings, including humans, are hardwired to be compassionate. I mean, we've seen all the internet pictures of different animals of different species nurturing each other. That's part of it. But they've also done research on toddlers and even infants as young as 2 months. And reliably, when babies, human babies, see another suffering, they don't recognize it in adults usually, although I have to say, when my daughter was 2, she met her great-grandmother for the first time. And her great-grandmother was very demented, but was at home in her son's house and was doing strange things. And my daughter walked over and poked me, and she said, "She's sad." Whoa. How did she understand that? It's hardwired. And in many, many, many experiments with kids as young as 2 or 3, before the ego starts developing and the theories and the stories and all the rest of the stuff that we build into our lives. Those little kids, when they see another little kid suffering, they'll offer a cookie or a toy. Or they'll do what my daughter did and go tap their mom on the arm. We have that in us, and it comes out under stress. It comes out in disaster. What's it going to take for it to come out? Every day. Pause. The pause that refreshes. So people say, well, kindness, universal kindness, that's hard. Yes, it is very hard, extraordinarily hard. I would dare say that not one of us here practices kindness in every moment with each other person. I sure don't. My family doesn't. We have one sister who's on welfare, as they used to call it, who is having trouble paying her bills. And all my sisters can talk about is, well, she spends $3,000 a year on cigarettes. Why doesn't she give that up? Well, it was hard to give it up. I don't know how many of you have given it up or tried to give it up. It's a very addictive substance. So I wrote a note to my other sisters, because this one sister had told me something she would really, really love. And of course, she doesn't have the wherewithal to buy it. I thought, well, it's, it cost us about $75. I wrote to everybody, I said, would you all go in with me on this? Stony silence. They're mad at her because she smokes. She doesn't deserve anything. I don't know how many of you think that about other people that you may encounter occasionally. It happens in my family. It happens with me. The other day, I was getting off of I-40 at 15501, and of course, just as I drove up, the light turned red. Inevitable. So I had a nice long time to sit there, and this guy entered from stage left and came onto the berm. He was holding a cardboard sign, and it said something like, homeless, pregnant wife. And my first reaction was, how dare he get some woman pregnant when he doesn't have means of support? And then I caught myself and I thought, oh, wait a minute. What do I really know about this guy? I mean, he looked young, he looked healthy, he looked strong. What do I really know about this guy, other than how he looks? And as I was sitting there at the light, captive audience, what happened was I really became aware, well, gee, what I do know is he's begging on a street corner. That must be very painful. And under different circumstances, I could be the person begging on the street corner. I'm not immune. And in fact, as he and I are one, I am begging on the street corner. So what difference did that make to the guy? The light turned or red? Who knows? At least that process, by the end of that 2.5 or 3 minutes, meant that I had kind of taken back the negative hostility that I had put out there. And I said a prayer for him, held him in prayer. What will that do? I have no idea. I don't need to know. But it was an example of, okay, what are the challenges to practicing universal kindness? Can I feel what Trump must be feeling right now as he puts together his cabinet? I don't know. I won't try to imitate some of the faces. It's a challenge. We have favorites that we consider worthy of kindness. But how do we feel about our hillbilly relatives who clearly voted for Trump? Or for Hillary, if you're on the Trump side? How many of us in the last 2 weeks have hesitated to spend time with friends or family members who we believe or know don't have the same political views that we do? And what difference does it make if our political views are different from someone else's? Those are purely material dividing lines. They are not real. They do not divide humanity. We only think they do. So the first thing that we can practice together over the next 3 months is becoming more aware of what are we really doing in this moment relative to other people. And what I was doing with that guy at the corner of 15501 and I-40, I made an instantaneous judgment of him. What does it mean to judge someone? I am not advocating getting rid of our facility of judgment. It's a very important gift and power that we have, but it was not meant to be used with other sentient beings. It was meant to be used with situations and challenges. We need judgment there. You know, it kind of boils down to common sense. That's really important. But when we judge, what does that mean? How do we know when we're judging? What are the words that are involved?
They have no right. How dare they?
Yeah, how dare they, for sure, yeah. Should, okay, yeah, should for sure.
Don't like.
Don't like, yes.
And why?
Why, okay.
They think they are.
Inappropriate, that's a good judging word. How about right or wrong? How about good or bad? Yeah. How about,
I'm not safe.
huh?
I'm not safe around them. I'm not safe around them.
Okay, how about safety or danger? Right. How about what? Rejection. Well, that is a judgment, yes. If you reject somebody for whatever reason, whatever you're saying about them, they're right or wrong, they're a failure or a success, they're rich or poor, they're Democrat or Republican, they're stupid or smart, they're... It goes on and on and on. Anytime you've got a word that has an opposite, and they could be either or. That little word or, if that's possible in the sentence, you're judging. If it's better or worse in any way, that's a judgment. And like I say, it's fine with situations to judge that, because if a situation isn't better, that's a good impetus to make it better. But not a person. What we do automatically when we get into that space, that judging space, is we put the other person over there. We are saying, I am not that other person. I am, almost inevitably, better. Now sometimes we judge and we say, I am worse. Yeah, we do that too. That is also a judgment. Anytime it's better or worse. So that's pretty easy to recognize if we're tuned in. If we think about it, is there an or in here? Stop. That's the moment to just say, stop. Breathe. So what do you do instead? I mean, you know, if you try to stop a thought, have you ever tried to stop a thought? That chocolate that's there on the table, no, I'm not going to look at it. This looks so. delicious. Oh no, I'm gonna stop thinking about the chocolate. Right? It's a sure way, just like it is with kids. Don't think about that. What are they gonna think about? That. So that's not a good strategy. What do you do instead?
Substitute your thought.
Huh?
Substitute your thought.
You can substitute another thought, but better when it comes to people.
Send light.
What?
Send light.
Send light, okay.
Have compassion.
Go into compassion. How do you do that?
Assume the best.
Huh?
Assume the best of them.
No.
Put myself in their shoes.
Yeah.
Pay attention to where they're at. Figure out what is their situation. Feel it. It works. It is so amazing how that works. I mean, I described how it worked with the guy at the light. I've told you before that all my life I had resented my mother until one day, miraculously, I got a sense of what she was dealing with and how that felt. And it was like, oh my God. Then I could love her. I didn't like her any better. I didn't have any better idea of what her strengths were because I hadn't gotten to know her. But I could feel love. So it's a question of understanding when we're judging another person. That, oh, wait a minute. What do I really know about that person and why he or she is doing what is going on right now? How well do I really understand that? And unless you are that person, I would suggest you don't. Can I judge my sister? No. I mean, I know, I would probably feel the same way if they had been with her, if I had been with her as many times as they have. I would be very powerfully driven to feel the same way. I've been at a little distance. I have an advantage. That doesn't mean that not having compassion for her is helpful. It's not. There was a story that I heard. One of these, there's a rabbi and a priest in a... This was a Buddhist. No, I'm not going to tell it. I don't know the three protagonists. But the idea was, there isn't anybody else who judges us when we get to heaven or when we leave this body, to use a more universal concept. What was proposed, that this is a rabbi who was teaching this, and I wish I could remember who, was that we don't really immediately remember everything from our lives once we have crossed over into spirit, just as we don't remember very much about our lives when we cross over into the physical. So there's this life that we're given to look at. And they don't tell us, this is you. And we don't necessarily know, this is us. And they ask, so what would you suggest? How would you suggest we should treat this person? And then they do what you say. And the moral of the story was, anybody who is habitually kind has a huge advantage. Think about that.
That's why we're in the button today, huh?
Yes, so who doesn't have a button? A blue button.
Raise your hand.
Yeah, raise your hand. And one will appear.
Chris's magic basket.
Yep. Okay, everybody's got a blue button, right? Put it on. If you don't want to pierce your clothes, put it on a zipper pull or your belt or your shoelace, or get creative, but wear it. Do you not have one, Debbie? Oh. Another one missing over here. This is interesting.
Oh, you just want Chris to get his exercise today.
Okay, now put it on. It's not supposed to stay there very long. You know what happens when you wear it? First of all, you're standing up for a very important principle. And other people who also want that to happen are going to see your button and they're going to smile. And they might even say, "Oh, what a great button." And guess what you do? You take it off. You say, "This is for you." And they're so touched. Think about it. When there's no, they know it's no value. There's no guilt that needs to be associated. But when you make that gesture of noticing somebody's response and giving them something that they liked, you're very happy. And then what you do well, I thought I put it in there. Oh, thank you. The spare in your pocket. You put the next one on until the next time. There are extras. I suggest you take a spare after the service and have fun doing that. But it also is good practice for being aware of kindness because you got it on. And it's important to think about it. Because if we forget, we're not going to practice. It's really important to practice. So this is a fun little game. There will be more pins before Christmas. So you can take a handful at that point. There's also a sign-up sheet on the back table. Go in with a friend or two, order your own, 50 or 100. They'll be here after Christmas. Get into it. Have fun. Because you really will understand the energy of kindness as you go through that a few times. I've been doing it. It's just really fun. And it keeps reminding me, oh yeah, kindness. We're working on this. We're learning. And yes, it's hard. The trick is to recognize judgment, recognize when we're thinking about somebody else better or worse in any way. Stop, take a breath, shift to putting yourself in their shoes, in your heart, and let that happen. And you can't be unkind at that point. You are tapping in to the kindness that is spirit in both you and you and you and you and me and everybody that is hardwired into us. We're allowing it to manifest. We're aligning with Spirit. So there's also on the back table a sheet of random acts of kindness for Christmas. It's just an idea starter. In your program, there is a little sheet with some suggestions about how to practice kindness. Let's really get into this over the next weeks and months.
Rosemary,
Yes.
I was just thinking that we could take, or some of us could take a picture of the button and post it on Facebook and stuff.
Oh, what a cool idea. Yes.
Bumper sticker.
Well, you know what? It is an individual person who is making these. And she's making them 1,000 at a time. So if we wanted to design a bumper sticker, put Unity Center of Peace on the bottom, and I would change the design a little bit, maybe change the words slightly. But yeah, we can do whatever we want. So great. Post on Facebook. Let's think about ways that we can get the word out and remind ourselves that this is a core practice that we are all working on together, not only with ourselves, but with people worldwide, with the program of the Dalai Lama. That, we are really in this energy. So just take a moment now, put your hand on the button, wherever you have it. If it's on your shoe, oh well. And just say after me, I pledge to practice universal kindness.
I pledge to practice universal kindness.
All right. And so it is.